Hey guys, week 3 NFL. That was week 2. Just quick recap. A lot more wider margins and victories. That's actually how the NFL usually is. Like 11 and a half points is pretty much the norm for your average margin of victory. This week, a little bit more high scoring games, but um, or last week, higher scoring games. This week, we don't have that luxury. So I did well. My big guys, Carr, Big Ben, Brady, and Rivers, those were my quarterbacks. That was my core. What killed me, what like held me from winning masses amount, like in all my lineups, I loved Bell and Elliott this week. So I used other running backs, but those were my main two. But my wide receivers, I only had Cooks, Pryor, and Fitzy do bad. All the rest, I had Keenan Allen, Chris Hogan, J.J. Nelson, Devontae Adams, and Bryant. My tight ends were Gronk and a few others when I could mix them in because I saw the value at wide receiver. So not bad, but man, Bell and Elliott, they hurt. And Le'Veon Bell, I'll talk about him more later, but there's too many targets to go around. So I'll get right into it. Once again, Thursday night, NFL wants ratings, and then they try to do stuff with Thursday night, color rush jerseys and different things. And it's like, and then you play the Los Angeles Rams at the San Francisco 49ers. And you guys made that schedule before you even knew. I mean, you figured how bad the teams were. You were going off of last year. So once again, glad I don't play Thursday night games. But if you do, yeah, of course you got Gurley. He's getting catches. He once again looks like Todd Gurley. Like their offensive line just isn't good enough for him to run. San Francisco, Carlos Hyde just had a little heyday against Seattle, but I don't really care for that game. Glad I'm not playing it. We'll just go straight into Sunday because I play the main slate Sunday only. Baltimore is Jacksonville. That's London. So if you want to play the London game, you can. Baltimore's defense is always in play, as I say every week. Buck Allen, like I said last week, was a great running back pick. And Terrence West, I said both of those guys. And yep, sure enough, they both did well. But I'm not going to be playing that game. I'm just doing the 1 o'clock's up, so I'll just start at Denver, Buffalo. C.J. Anderson came alive last week. Devontae Booker's back, but some people are worried about that. I'm not because C.J. Anderson's healthy. He's doing amazing. He's averaging like 5.2 yards a carry. He's involved in the passing game. I don't think Devontae Booker's going to come back, and they're just going to get rid of C.J. Anderson because of that. He might take a few carries away just to give him a break, but nothing that matters. I think this Buffalo defense is good, though. So I'm not really. Then again, they did just sack Cam Newton 6 times, held them to 9 points, and still lost. Like, whew, that's rough. Hey, you held them to single digits and lost. But this Denver-Buffalo game, I'm not targeting heavily. I don't like LaShawn McCoy because Denver, they're going to do the same game script. The only thing I was worried about last week with Ezekiel Elliott, I don't like Dak Prescott. I don't think he's a great quarterback. He's in a good system for him. He's not a great quarterback. So I think Denver, once again, they're going to let these elite Pro Bowl cornerbacks line up against Jordan Matthews, Zay Jones. One guy doesn't know the system, and the other guy's a rookie. So, and then have Tyrod Taylor throw. I like Tyrod Taylor, but not against his defense. This is the first away game for Denver, however, so we've seen them dominate at home. Back-to-back games, not so much dominate against the Chargers, but they looked really, really good. So now they get to play at Buffalo. I don't see that Buffalo offense being able to do anything. I don't see LaShawn McCoy being able to do anything. He's a tournament play just because the sheer amount of volume he gets and the low ownership, especially after what they just did to Ezekiel Elliott. But I don't think Tyrod Taylor is going to be able to stretch the field in order to back off that Denver defense from stacking 8 in the box or doing a wider set to control Tyrod and LaShawn. I'm just not seeing it. Trevor Siemian looks great, but I like this Buffalo defense a lot, so I'm not targeting any of that. Pittsburgh, Chicago. I got a lot of people written down for Pittsburgh, so instead of breaking down every game, I'll just start going to people that I like, actually. For quarterbacks, a lot of people, I put a star next to this one. Cam Newton in New Orleans. This isn't necessarily someone I like. Like I just said, he got 6. That's why I kind of wanted to talk about that Buffalo game real quick. He got sacked 6 times last game. He's going against New Orleans. Luckily, I don't even think they have 6 sacks all year. But they're giving up 28 fantasy points on average against the quarterback, this Saints defense. But Cam Newton sacked 6 times. He looks horrible. He's not throwing the ball well, and he just lost his safety net in Greg Olsen, and he's got a bum ankle. He got hurt last week, so he is going to be this massive, massive chalk play. And the only reason I'm going to have a slight bit of exposure to him is because he's playing at home against the Saints. I'm probably going to take Kelvin Benjamin more. In a tournament, you could play Devin Funchess. I don't really care for Devin Funchess, but Christian McCaffrey, a lot of people are going to play. And I've said this, I think last week, was he's involved in both the running and the passing, but he's not. So he's involved in everything, but you have to give a running back their touches. And McCaffrey is only getting 8-10 touches a game. Like that's nothing for fantasy points. And then he gets 7 to 10 targets a game, that's good. Like, I'll take that. But in this little dink and dunk thing they're doing with him, they're just trying to get him in the open field, but he mostly lines up in the slot. And then they're giving him a few rushes. It's not going to do anything. It's just not. And we're seeing it time and time again, or 2 weeks in a row. I'm not going to say time. Technically, that is time and time again. But 2 weeks in a row, he's on the field a lot. He's used. I'm not going to say heavily involved, but when you give someone 8 to 10 rushes, you don't really let them get a running back needs their reps, and he's not getting that. And then you line him up in receiver. You connect on 50, 60% of your throws. That's decent in the NFL. So I don't care for him, but because it's New Orleans, they give up a lot of points. They are dead last against the quarterback. A lot of people are going to play Cam Newton. I'm actually going to fade him a little bit. I'm going to have some exposure, but he's not my favorite quarterbacks. The quarterbacks I do like, kind of similar to the ones I liked last week. Roethlisberger at Chicago. He's got so many weapons. I don't see him being the same Roethlisberger away as last year. Now that you got Martavis Bryant, Eli Rogers is another year in the system playing the slot, and Juju Smith-Schuster. So he's not bad either. He's in their 4 wide receiver packages, their rookie. And then Jesse James, he didn't really know the system that well because Heath had just retired the year before. He seems to know the system. Big Ben's been screaming for a tight end that's elite, because just any sort of athletic tight end in the middle that knows the system opens up all the receivers, because you can't double team. Who are you going to double team? Antonio Brown. And then you got a tight end open, or single coverage, or you got Martavis Bryant downfield. So now, and they got Eli Rogers in the slot. It's very hard. But because of all these mouths to feed, Le'Veon Bell does not get the same amount of upside, because they don't need to throw him the ball all this time, and they can throw the ball around relative ease. So Antonio Brown's going up against Kyle Fuller. So he's a good cornerback, but I like Antonio Brown better. Once again, due to Big Ben's price and due to Big Ben being on the road, he's going to have low ownership. So I play him in my tournaments. He's away, so he doesn't have that cushion, that 3 touchdown floor that he does at home pretty much, but he's still a solid pick. Chicago's given up 20 points on average to the quarterback, and they played Matt Ryan, and then they played Jameis Winston. That was his first game of the year, so not bad. Like, Matt Ryan away, very first time with an offensive coordinator. Jameis Winston, very first game of the year. They're averaging 20 points against the quarterback. Now they play Big Ben, who's on week 3 with all his weapons healthy. I like him. Derek Carr against Washington. This is going to be a chalky play. Washington's 28th against the pass. They're averaging, or Chicago might be averaging. Yeah, they're averaging 15 points against the quarterback. My bad. Looking at the receiver numbers for Brown. So Washington's averaging 15 points against quarterback, and they went up against Carson Wentz, who took care of business against him, but it was only for 18 points. And then they went up against Jared Goff. He's still not expected to do much. He's still not asked to do too much. They're trying to win by defense and running the ball. I guess not well, but they're trying to. So those numbers are a little skewed. Derek Carr is a more mature, better version of Wentz and Goff. Wentz and Goff are what they want to be Derek Carr eventually. I would assume he's just a few years older, so they probably want his contract too. So Derek Carr and his weapons against Washington, 28th against the quarterback. Yeah, I think that's a real good matchup. He's expensive. He's more expensive than Big Ben. He's more expensive than Cam Newton. He's up there with Matt Ryan, and then right below those upper level tier quarterbacks. So you're going to pay for him, but he's not bad. Just a matter of stacking them right. So pretty much I feel like you have to stack in a tournament. There's only a few quarterbacks you can get away with not stacking if they spread the ball around really well. Like even Brady last week. I had multiple tournaments with Brady, Cooks, Hogan, Brady, Hogan, Gronk, Brady, Cooks, Gronk. Just different types of stacks to differentiate your lineup, not have so much of the same exposure to everyone. But with Carr, everyone's going to hop on Crabtree. I always say I hate Michael Crabtree, and then I hate Michael Crabtree, and then he does it to my team, the Jets. Like 6 catches, 3 touchdowns, and I used Carr, but I didn't really stack him in a few of my lineups, and I knew he was going up against the rookie. And I knew Maurice Claiborne's good going against Cooper. I barely played Cooper. I think I just my hate for Crabtree really shadowed my or really influenced my pick. So mad at myself. This week, Josh Norman gets to go up against Amari Cooper. So I'm probably going to play Michael Crabtree. Jared Cook's also in the mix. I'll do that when I go over tight ends. Matt Ryan at Detroit. Detroit's 23rd against the quarterback, and they went up against Carson Palmer, who threw 3 interceptions, and Eli Manning, who just poor Eli. No offensive line. He doesn't really have many weapons. He targeted Brandon Marshall like 3 times, and he just dropped one, missed one, threw it behind him. Like they're not doing anything, but that's New York Giants. It doesn't matter. So Matt Ryan at Detroit. I think it's going to be a decent game. Shootout potential. 2 decent defenses, but not great. Palmer looked horrible week 1, and then Eli doesn't have a O-line. That's kind of what I was getting at. So they're ranked 23rd against the quarterback, yet they went up against Carson Palmer's 3 interceptions and Eli Manning without an offensive line. So I'm pretty sure Matt Ryan, more of a believer now after seeing him in doing that to Green Bay. So a lot better. So yeah, I like Matt Ryan. I'm going to have more exposure to Roethlisberger and Carr. This next guy, I'm playing him every week till his price goes up. He's going to get you 17, 18 points. But this is Phillip Rivers going up against Kansas City. It's at Los Angeles. Kansas City is 29th against the quarterback. They went up against Tom Brady and Carson Wentz, who thrashed them. It looks like they are missing Eric Berry. They are giving up 17.8 fantasy points on average per game to quarterbacks. Oh, that's Detroit giving up 10 points per quarterback. That's what I was saying with Palmer and Eli. So I don't know how you give up 10 points on average, but then you're the 23rd against quarterbacks. That doesn't match up. But Phillip Rivers, he's cheap, and he has a really good ceiling. So first game, he had no yards and 3 touchdowns. Next game, he had over 300 yards and 1 touchdown. Put those together, and I think he could do it against Kansas City. They're going to kind of have to at least have a balanced attack and have to try to put some points on the board. But Kansas City's 29th against quarterback, they're giving up 17.8 points. And guess what? Rivers had 17 points one game, 18 another, I believe. So they're giving up what he gets. He's going to get you 18 points. They don't have Eric Berry, which puts Tyrell Williams in a good spot too, along with Keenan Allen, the target monster. I played a lot of Antonio Gates last week. I knew he was going to get that touchdown first home game. But now that he got that touchdown, I'm done with him. I think they start mixing in Hunter Henry a lot more. But yeah, Kansas City, as much as they dominated Tom Brady that first week, they really didn't. Tom Brady threw for 200, almost 70 yards, no touchdowns. He handed off the ball on the goal line 3 times. They got 3 touchdowns in the goal line. He could have easily had 1, 2 of those, and Gronk missed one. you give Gronk that one, he's sitting at 301. That's with Eric Berry, and that's with him handing the ball off numerous times on the goal line. So, and then Carson Wentz ripped him apart. So, yeah, I like Phillip Rivers a lot. His ceiling, I'm thinking, is 330, 340 yards because Gordon's also involved in the passing attack. They don't have much of a ground game because the dude can't run well. But I like Phillip Rivers against Kansas City. They look like they're hurting without Eric Berry. And I hate to say this one, but Smoking Jay Cutler against the Jets. It's in New York. Doesn't matter. Jets are 20th against the quarterback, which that doesn't make sense, but they also average 20 fantasy points to the quarterback. They played Tyrod Taylor, so he had some running guards. He was one of my week 1 quarterbacks that I liked. And then Derek Carr last week, which we know he just crushed him. Now, Jay Cutler is not asked to throw a lot. This is a huge Jay Ajayi game, I think. But due to the fact that Jarvis Landry, that's an insane amount of targets last week, 13 catches. I don't know how he only got 78 yards, but 13 catches. Everyone loves Devontae Parker, but he had a tough matchup last week. And now he's got Maurice Claiborne, and that's a tough matchup. So if you guys want to play Parker, go ahead. I'm not going to. I'm going to play Jarvis Landry this week. He's going up against Boris. And Boris was the same guy that just got torched by Crabtree. He goes up against their number 2 guy, which he could be going up against. Oh, I'm sorry. He's going up against Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills is going to be going up against Boris. Kenny Stills isn't nearly as big as Crabtree, but he's good and he's fast. So Stills is a GPP pick. Landry is usually your cash pick, and he gets to go up against Buster Skrine, and they have 2 mismatches on their wide receivers, so that you can play Jarvis Landry all day and you can play Kenny Stills all day. That's all the quarterbacks I really like. So only 6, and I'm not even going to have much exposure to Cam Newton. Everyone else will, and I'm not going to have much exposure to Jay Cutler. I think he's going to get you 250 yards and a touchdown, maybe two. But Jets give up 20 points on average to the quarterback, so that's the only reason why I'm going to have a little bit of exposure. He's cheap. He's $100 less than Phillip Rivers. I'm going to have him in some cash games, but that's it. Running backs, Le'Veon Bell at Chicago. Chicago's 15th against the running backs on average. They give up 20 points. Bell's price keeps going down. I'm going to keep playing him. So just due to the low ownership, his price going down, and his ceiling, which I don't know how big his ceiling or how high his ceiling is anymore because he is not used as much in the passing attack because they have so many weapons. Like last year, Eli Rogers was new. Jesse James, pretty much new. They didn't have Juju Smith. They didn't have Martavis Bryant. They were rolling out Marcus Wheaton. You're not even on the team anymore. Hayward Bay. Like that. Now that they have all their weapons back, the Steelers we've been waiting to see, they don't really need to throw at the Bell. I think he had one last week, I think 5 targets or 5 catches, but I don't think he has those massive PPR games anymore. So he's more of a FanDuel play. But once again, he is a tournament and a cash play. I'm going to have a little bit of exposure to him. Jay Ajayi is going to be my most owned running back as everyone's. He's going to be the chalk. Jets are averaging 36 points to running backs, opposing team running backs, and they're 32nd against the run. Jay Ajayi ate them up for over 300 yards in 2 games last year. He had 122 in his first game without a touchdown. Like, pretty sure he finds the end zone and has another phenomenal game. So, yeah, I'll be playing Jay Ajayi this week, sadly. Ty Montgomery, I didn't like him last week. Once again, he's touchdown dependent. The only reason I like him this week, because if he got a lot of catches, though, last week. Then again, they lost Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson. So, yeah, of course, he was used more in the passing game a little bit. You line him up as a running back, and then he just does a quick dink and dunk. He had a great game. Like, he was in the Millionaire Maker, Devontae Freeman and Ty Montgomery. That was a good pivot off those quarterbacks, but his price isn't really coming up too much. 7,200 on FanDuel, so right around middle tier running backs. As long as he's involved in the passing game, he's got a higher ceiling. Cincinnati's 31st against running backs, and they're averaging 24 points against. That's because they're number 1 against wide receivers. They have given up 15, I think, no, 13 total catches, 152 yards, and 1 touchdown in 2 games. I'll bet it was versus Baltimore and Cincinnati, but still, or Baltimore and Houston, but still, like, they're not giving up much to. They have a great secondary. They're not giving up much to the wide receivers, but their offense can't do much. So I actually like Ty Montgomery this week. If he is used in the passing game, he's a very safe play. If not, he doesn't get a lot of rushing yards. He's not a good running back in that aspect. He's a good fantasy running back. He's not a good actual running back. So once again, I'm gonna stick by what I said last week. He's touchdown dependent. So this guy, one of my favorite running backs in the league. He plays behind my favorite running back in the league. But Derrick Henry, I was at the Jacksonville Titans game last week. Saw DeMarco Murray. He's had a tight hamstring all offseason. Week 1, he didn't look great. Week 2, kind of was hurt, wasn't running great. Derrick Henry took over. He gets to play in Tennessee against Seattle. They're 23rd against the run. Don't be afraid of Seattle against the run. They're giving up 21.2 points fantasy against running backs. He's 6,400. I don't think he's going to be chalky because he goes up against Seattle. So I'm going to run him in a lot of my lineups. And that way I can save a little bit of money and use the J.J. That's probably going to be my big 1-2 punch. But Derrick Henry is going to take over this backfield. It's just a matter of when, because DeMarco Murray is still a phenomenal running back. But if he's hurt and Derrick Henry gets the appropriate amount of touches, something like 18 to 22, yeah, he's going to have a good game. Those are the running backs that I like. Here's some that are just being talked about, or other ones that I'll have a little bit of exposure to, so I don't limit myself to only 4 running backs. Melvin Gordon, just because his amount of volume. He's like a LaShawn McCoy. He gets that much volume, but he cannot run well. Once again, going up against Kansas City, they are 20th against the run. They give up 39 points on average to fantasy. Now, don't freak out. That was towards running backs. They give up 39 points. Don't freak out. That was week 1 New England, garnishing them for 3 touchdowns. Plus all the PPR points that they got with James White, Deion Lewis, all that. So Burkhead, all that was factored in. So that's outlier number. I don't like Gordon too much, but I'm going to have a little bit of exposure, just sheer amount of volume, and he's used in the pass attack. So Christian McCaffrey, I talked about him earlier. He doesn't get too many touches. He gets a decent amount of targets. He's like a Ty Montgomery without the touchdown. That's pretty much what you're looking at with Ty Montgomery. If he doesn't get a touchdown, you're like Christian McCaffrey the last 2 weeks, and that was like 11 and 8 points, unless you're in DraftKings and bump it up a few. But that's not going to win you a tournament. So someone commented last week. They were like, well, it's still 2.5. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Because his price was so low. His price is going to go higher. He's not going to always get you 2.5. If he doesn't get you that touchdown, he's not really going to have a good game at all, let alone as his price goes up. Gordon's at 7,600. As long as Ty Montgomery keeps doing his thing, keep playing him. But Melvin Gordon, a lot of people are going to pick him just because he's coming off back-to-back consistent games. Remember, last year he was absolutely horrible running back, but he got an insane amount of touchdowns. As long as he keeps scoring, keep running them. Christian McCaffrey, talked about him. James White, 5,600 against Houston. Houston's 22nd against the run. And, New Orleans is 25th, and they average 46.4 points against fantasy running backs. I don't even know how that was like an average. How is that possible? Like, that's insane. That's because last week, Burkhead ripped him open. Like, they just everyone scored against them. So, once again, a little bit different. And then Dalvin Cook ran all over him week 1. So, New England uses their running back so well that anytime you play New England, your fantasy points against running backs are going to, be skewed. Which, hey, what do you know? Kansas City and New Orleans are horrible against the running back, and they both played New England. So, James White versus Houston, they're giving up 23.7 points to the running back, and they're a very good secondary. They can put pressure on Tom Brady. He's going to dink and dunk. He's going to give it off to James White. He's heavily involved. I like James White this week, especially for his price at 5,600. I actually moved him to my running backs I'm going to use. So just because I got Gillislee there to vulture touchdowns, that's the only reason I'm not going to have heavy exposure to him. They're running Rex Burkhead as a slot receiver. So I kind of like James White more as a running back, so I'm fine with that. And then this one's an ugly pick, but a lot of people are going to play Christian McCaffrey. This guy's cheaper than him, and he gets more touches, and that's John Stewart. Old man John Stewart goes up against New Orleans at home. The only reason I like him is because with Christian McCaffrey playing in that slot and playing that little versatile weapon, with Cam Newton having a bump ankle, this leans towards a Jonathan Stewart. Plus that defense, Breeze being away, not playing under a dome, and hurt ankle. I think Jonathan Stewart for 6,200 is definitely worth it in cash games. I don't think he has a huge game, but he does get to play against the Saints, so it definitely helps. As for receivers, Antonio Brown, like I said, he goes up against Kyle Fuller, Martavis Bryant. I got a decent matchup in Chicago. They're averaging 30 points against wide receivers, not bad. 26 against wide receivers. You can play either of them, both of them. It doesn't matter. I'm probably going to have a Steelers stack this week. So, Crabtree Cooper, they're the exact same price. There you go, FanDuel, finally figuring it out. So Crabtree gets touchdowns. I wish I figured it out last week. 28th against the wide receiver. That's Washington, giving up 31.7 points to wide receivers. Cooper's probably going to get the Josh Norman treatment. I don't know, maybe Crabtree does, but I probably won't play much of Cooper. I'll play a little bit of Crabtree. I like Jared Cook. I don't like Marshawn Lynch. Although Washington's not great against the run. That's a little bit skewed numbers, but I don't like Lynch. He's not running well. He got a touchdown to save his week, but 45 yards. And then you had the dance all over the Jets. Come on, man. But I like A.J. Green, 7,500. Green Bay has not given up a touchdown to a wide receiver yet. And it's probably going to stay that way because Cincinnati hasn't thrown a touchdown or rushed for a touchdown or scored a touchdown. So, but for some reason, I like A.J. Green here. Jordy Nelson's probably going to play. Randall Cobb might play. Aaron Rodgers is at home. Even with the banged-up Jordy, he's got enough weapons, and it's still Aaron Rodgers at home. Even though Cincinnati's an amazing secondary, it's still enough to force Cincinnati to kind of have to throw. And Matt Ryan he didn't carve him up. Like Freeman did what he wanted to as well. But if you hand it off and you score, but Matt Ryan could have not easily thrown one in because Green Bay is not allowed a touchdown, but they just handed it off to Devontae Freeman and he punched it in. So if you give Ryan that one touchdown, it has a monster game. Andy Dalton's not afraid to throw to A.J. Green. He's got a lot of targets this year like he does every year. He's averaging 70 yards a game. So if you just throw a touchdown his way, 70 yards a game, automatically that's turning into 70 yards plus a touchdown. You're looking at 13, 14 points for 7,500. That's 2 times return. That's fine with me. And it's A.J. Green, so he always has upside. You're not going to give him at that price. As soon as Cincinnati does something, I don't know. Once again, they just fired their offensive coordinator, though, so we don't know. And they don't really have much of an O-line, but I like them this week. Just, I don't know, maybe not have too much exposure to them. Keenan Allen and Tyrell Williams. I talked about Kansas City earlier. They don't look the same without Eric Berry, and because they lost a safety, that opens up either a tight end or that opens up their secondary, Tyrell Williams. So Tyrell 65, Keenan Allen 72. Kansas City's 29th against the wide receivers, giving up 39 points. I don't really need to say too much. Like I said, I'm going to have different stacks with Rivers. I really like it. Taking back, Kareem Hunt is always in play, the sheer amount of volume. I'm going to play Kareem Hunt. He's expensive. I think he was 84 on FanDuel, but you can definitely play Kareem Hunt. So it's just, I saw other ones to play. Kareem Hunt's going to be chalky. He's coming off massive games, but I mean, you kind of have to play him. I'm going to actually write him down that I need to play him. So you can play him in cash and GPP because you can see his upside is massive, but those are just easy picks like J.J. and Kareem Hunt, expensive running backs, 82, 84, but good picks. So pretty easy picks. Terrell Pryor, people are going to get off of him. Staying on him. I'm gonna try it again. I even put a question mark next to it, like why? But he's 6,900. Oakland's 14th against the wide receiver, and they play the Jets, and they played Tennessee, which they've always played Tennessee well. Mariota didn't have a good game. That could be because they're secondary. I don't know. It's a limited pool, but I think Kirk Cousins is a good. Obviously, he's a good quarterback. So I think that they give up 26.1 points to the wide receiver. This means the whole wide receiver group, like not just one receiver. So yeah, Pryor for 69. He's still getting targets. He had a tough matchup last week with Tremaine Johnson. I shouldn't have played him as much. But I just thought he put that week 1 on his back, so I thought he'd get a touchdown. Oh well. I'm going to play him again this week, and then I got Jarvis Landry. I wrote down Devontae Parker going up against Claiborne. I'm not going to play him, but I got Stills against Boris, and Kenny Stills 5,100 on FanDuel. He's going to be minimum price on DraftKings, so more than likely minimum priced. So I think that's a great pick. For cash, you got Landry. Jets are 20th, and they average 35.5 fantasy points against wide receivers. Yeah, you could play Landry in your cash games and Stills in your GPPs all day. Devontae Adams, Cincinnati's first against wide receivers. I already gave their stat line, 13, 152, and 1. That's catches, yards, and touchdowns they've given up in 2 games. It's also against Baltimore and Houston. So take it as you will. It's Baltimore with a beat-up Flacco that just ran the ball. And Houston. So now they're going up against Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. I do not think they're going to be the number one passing or number one secondary in the league after this game. Jordy Nelson's going to play, but he's going to be hobbled. I liked Devontae Adams last week a lot because he has that massive upside, and everyone was on Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb, but I just like Devontae Adams. He was one of my pretty much I have him in every single league for my season longs. So I'm going to play him again this week. I put a question mark, meaning be wary against him because if Jordy Nelson doesn't play, he wasn't a good wide receiver 1 when Jordy was out the other year, 2 years ago. So, but because Jordy will be playing, Devontae Adams usually gets a second corner. He always gets a second corner, and they look scary on paper. Cincinnati's number 1 against the pass, but I'm going to play him as long as Jordy's there. His price is still good. Randall Cobb's going to be beat up. If you want a GPP play Geronimo Allison. He's going to be cheap. He's going to be on the field at least. So, yeah, you're good with that. You play Martellus Bennett, but Cincinnati's amazing against tight ends. Kelvin Benjamin, he's going to be played a lot. He's going to be chalky. He's one of these. Devontae Adams, Terrell Pryor, Kelvin Benjamin, and DeAndre Hopkins are all my 4 that could go either way on. DeAndre Hopkins, 29 targets through 2 weeks. Deshaun Watson is just throwing it to this guy. New England stereotypically tries to shut down the number 1 option. Yeah, they're going to try to shut down DeAndre Hopkins. They did it in the playoffs. So he's 7,500 and he's leading the league in targets. Deshaun Watson's probably not afraid of, or he's clearly not afraid of throwing it to Watson. So yeah, I'm worried about it, but I'm not too worried. New England has gone up. They went up against Alex Smith. We all know how that went. And then they went up against Drew Brees in New Orleans. So they're ranked 31st against wide receivers. New Orleans are ranked 32nd, and they're playing Kelvin Benjamin. Greg Olson's out. McCaffrey, Benjamin, Funchess, they're all probably going to get more targets due to this. But I like Kelvin because Greg Olson, he was so comfortable with him. He just threw it to him all the time as needed, safety net, whenever. Now he's gone. Who's he comfortable with? Kelvin Benjamin. So he's going to be highly owned. He's got a good price there too, 6,600, and the best matchup on the slate. So play him in cash. You can play him in GPP as well. But I don't like a lot of tight ends this week. The top 5 worst teams against the tight ends: Miami, Cleveland, Jacksonville, New England, New Orleans. Miami's playing the Jets. They don't have a tight end. Cleveland's playing Indy. They don't have a quarterback. Jacksonville, Baltimore, that's in London. New England at Houston, they literally do not have a tight end. And New Orleans at Carolina. Another one. Those are the top 5 worst defenses. Miami, Cleveland, Jacksonville, New England, New Orleans, worst against the tight ends. That's pretty much they're off the slate for me. The next worst defense against the tight end is the Giants. And what do you know? Zach Ertz just went nuts again. If he gets a touchdown, he has a massive day, massive day. Back-to-back 90-yard games. heavy amount of targets, heavy amount of catches, massive amount of yards. He's on the field all the time. Carson Wentz loves him. I'll be playing Ertz. He's 6,500 on FanDuel. His price is finally accurate. I'll be playing Ertz in almost all my lineups. Charles Clay against Denver, just because they got to throw to someone. Denver's always been susceptible to tight ends. I'm not going to have him too much, but I am going to have Charles Clay. Evan Ingram, they're playing the Phillies. The Giants are playing the Phillies. It goes like Giants are bad against tight ends. I think it goes Denver, and then it goes the Giants, or then it goes the Eagles. So Evan Ingram just showed he could play. He missed another touchdown last night, or he got rocked, actually. He didn't miss it. He caught it and just got absolutely rocked by Darius Slay. So he could have had a massive night last night. He caught one touchdown. He was targeted enough, especially for that offensive line. A tight end's either going to have to help block or do a quick chip block and walk and try to catch a quick under route, curl route. So I like Evan Ingram, 5,100. The Giants give up on average 17.7 points to the tight end. Denver gives up 14.7, and the Eagles give up 16.5. So I'm going to target mostly Ertz and Ingram with a little bit of Charles Clay. And then I don't like the matchup. Seattle only gives up 8 points, but because of the Corey Davis injury to Tennessee, he was leading the league with 14 targets, or leading the Tennessee Titans with 14 targets. Everyone in second, they all matched 13 targets. Mariota distributes the ball evenly. Those 14 targets, his number one weapon is now Rashard Matthews is going to be against Richard Sherman, and Corey Davis had 13, and now Corey Davis is injured. So recap, Rashard Matthews was leading the Titans in targets. He's going to be matched up against Richard Sherman, more than likely, and the next guy leading, and then Corey Davis is gone. So now you got Delaney Walker, more than likely to take over the target share on Sunday. So it's a bad matchup against the Seahawks. They are really good at covering the tight ends, but because of Corey Davis's injury and how much Mariota likes him, and it's at home, I might play Delaney Walker in some. I'd rather have Zach Ertz for 6,500 though. And then I wrote down Jared Cook, 5,200, and their Oakland's playing Washington, giving up 16.9 points to the tight end somehow. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I like. I don't like a lot of guys this week, so if you like anyone, please comment. Let me know. Let me know who you like and why, and because I don't like too many people. I got a small core: Big Ben, Carr, Rivers, maybe some Cutler, maybe some Matt Ryan, Bell, Hunt, Ajayi, Montgomery, Henry, a few wide receivers like I talked about, and then just like 4 or 5 tight ends at best. So let me know. Hopefully this helps you out. Obviously, all my picks aren't going to do well, or else I wouldn't be doing videos. I would just be making a ton of money every week and not have to even worry about videos, although videos are never going to pay. I have a real job, but no offense if you only make videos for money. But, yeah, I just do this for fun. But I don't know, and I don't really laugh while I do it, so whatever. But, yeah, if you got anything, let me know, because I don't really like too much. But hopefully you enjoyed, and good luck to you. Let me know what you disagree with and why. So hopefully we can help each other out. Thanks for watching.